And welcome in everyone to this week's episode of Craze's Corner. We have a free agency episode. We're going to have two episodes here. First episode is going to be quarterbacks and wide receivers. A lot of quarterbacks changing teams and wide receivers changing teams as well. Second episode is going to be running backs and tight ends. So many running backs decided to switch teams this offseason. Not something we usually see, but there are a lot of them. That's why we had to pair them with the tight ends. So we're going to do that. Like I said, this episode, quarterbacks, wide receivers, lots to talk about. So we're going to get straight into it. Zach from Ocean State, Jeff and Will from Media. Welcome in, guys. We're going to get a chance to talk about each one of our teams at some point through these next two episodes. Panthers, Dolphins, Vikings, and the Seahawks. But, every team's made some sort of signings. Seahawks, not quite as many as, other teams. But, signings have been going on for every team in the NFL besides the Seahawks. And so we're going to start off. Quarterback, big signing, a guy who goes from Will's team in the Vikings to the Atlanta Falcons. 4-year, $180 million deal.
No way.
They also brought in Darnell Mooney on a 3-year, $39 million deal. I like this for Atlanta's fantasy options. In my opinion, Kirk Cousins is by far and away the best thing that could have happened to this team. Drake London goes up in my books. He's going to be a top 15 wide receiver, in my opinion. Kyle Pitts finally going to be maybe a top 5 tight end. He got to keep the jersey number, so we'll see what happens there. Bijan will get the targets from Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not running around coming off this Achilles injury. So I like this for Bijan. I like it for Drake London. I like it for Kyle Pitts. Darnell Mooney is showing some flashes with Chicago. Are we really going to want him as like a third or fourth option in this offense? Probably not. But he'll be good for Atlanta. Just not really interested in him for fantasy. They also traded for Rondale Moore out of Arizona. Not really expecting much that way, but I like Kirk Cousins for the other weapons. Kirk Cousins himself, probably, quarterback 10 to 12. Like he was in Minnesota. I think that this offense should be much better. Arthur Smith's gone. Praise everything. He's down there in Pittsburgh now, so I feel bad for anyone who has Pittsburgh stock. But Atlanta, at least,
running backs.
Yeah. And at least Arthur Smith's gone. Kirk Cousins is here. I think better times are ahead for their weapons. Zach, what do you think about Kirk Cousins signing in Atlanta?
Yeah, it's like you said, the best thing that could have happened to them. I was expecting a quarterback in the draft, but you got to be excited for the wide receiver. And like you were talking about Kyle Pitts, I'm still not gonna count those chickens before they hatch. But I think Drake London is a guy that everyone knows the talent is there. If you just watch some of the games from last year, that just the balls were nowhere near where he was. Even when he separated from his the cornerback or whoever was covering him. He's a great wide receiver, and Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback for fantasy, as Justin Jefferson. So yeah, maybe we can get a little TJ Hawkinson-esque Kyle Pitts going on in Atlanta, and dynasty managers can finally appreciate what they have.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Will, you're the Kirk Cousins expert here, Minnesota Vikings fan. Are you excited for the Atlanta Falcons weapons?
Yeah, in that division, I think he's gonna do really well. I mean, if we're talking just fantasy, yeah, it's gonna go through the roof. Outside of fantasy, I don't feel good for Atlanta. I think they're paying a lot of money in the prime years of a lot of guys' things, and they're going to get what the Vikings get: 1 playoff win and 2 playoff wins in 5 years. So fantasy, though, during the regular season, yeah, he's probably a really good kid as long as that Achilles is healed and he doesn't have any other injuries.
Yeah, I mean, NFL-wise, no one ever thought the Falcons were coming out and winning the Super Bowl. Right. Maybe besides Falcons fans. So for NFL-wise, Kirk Cousins overpaid. He's not going to be great for 4 more years. Fantasy-wise, I could not be more excited. Jeff, anything you want to say before we move on here?
I'm just saying it's one of those things where there's upside, because you still are looking at a quarterback coming off that Achilles injury that's a little bit longer in the tooth. So I just have to wait and, that's the one thing I'm just I'm waiting to see. Although some people are probably going to say that Kirk Cousins being old and with an injury is better than the quarterbacks that they've had. But, we got to see.
Yeah, we'll see. They should be able to protect him. Their offensive line's pretty good. So as long as they can keep him upright, he recovers perfectly. He's obviously they gave him $180 million. The doctors seem to think he's on pace, so I would like to tend to agree with that. So I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins on pace to be ready. He's probably ahead of schedule because, that's everyone's favorite word. This player is always ahead of schedule. Ahead of schedule. Everyone's ahead of schedule. So Kirk Cousins, I'm pretty confident. Next guy, I don't think we have to talk about too much. Baker Mayfield, for fantasy-wise, I think everything kind of just repeats from last year. To me, not much changes in my opinion. They haven't really added anything by way of running backs. Mike Evans is back on a 2-year, $52 million deal. So for me, I kind of expect sort of a repeat from last year, just in a division that's a little bit better, but fantasy-wise, similar sort of outputs. Anyone really have anything? Expecting a big breakout year from Baker? You expect him to regress? You just kind of expect about the same.
$100 million man.
Baker Mayfield. He's $100 million man. Kirk's $180 million man. These NFC South teams paying big for their quarterbacks. Former NFC South quarterback Sam Darnold got $10 million to go play for Will's Minnesota Vikings this upcoming year. Why? I'm not so sure. $10 million is $10 million. Obviously, the Vikings believe something. I think Sam Darnold's okay. If the Vikings,
he'll be a great mentor for JJ McCarthy.
There it is.
He's been through it all. I mean, if anyone can tell you about adversity, that Sam Darnold guy. He can tell you about adversity. He can tell you about all those ghosts that are floating around out there, all that kind of fun stuff. Fantasy-wise, I hate this for Justin Jefferson. If it's Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, maybe they even trade up into the top 3 and get a Jaden Daniels. Still not in love. Justin Jefferson-wise, he's still obviously an amazing talent, probably still a top 15 wide receiver on the season, but it limits his wide receiver 1 upside that he had with Kirk Cousins. TJ Hawkinson, to me, also takes a step back, a big step back, coming off the injury. I'm not super excited about the Vikings passing game in particular this upcoming season. I think they're playing more towards next season. Maybe Sam Darnold, maybe paying him big money is just them saying, okay, that's about it for this year. We'll try again next year. That's about all Sam Darnold's good for. But maybe he has a Baker Mayfield sort of resurgence, ex-Panthers quarterbacks. I don't know. Will, you're a Vikings fan. Are you super excited about the prospect of Sam Darnold leading your offense?
I think this offseason has taught me to wait until the draft is over. Because I don't know. I mean, it's obvious that he's a bridge at best, especially when they did the trade for the second first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Texans, by the way, for not asking for anything more than another second-round pick. I don't understand that one for the life of me. But it just depends. I mean, we'll see how good of a quarterback whisperer Kevin O'Connell is.
Mm-hmm. Is anyone interested in Jordan Addison in this upcoming season, or is he kind of?
No, I think he takes the biggest hit of anyone's fantasy stock in the entire offense, because even if you do bring in JJ McCarthy, I mean, what are you expecting from a guy that's essentially just hand the ball off for his entire college career?
It's obvious that the Viking ownership gave them the green light to, because I think the ownership wanted Cousins. That's just the way they've been. That's the way they've been. And I think they're great. They're good owners. I don't know if they're great, but they're good owners. They try. I mean, they try to put a good on the team. They try to put a good product on the team every year on the field, right? But I think they got the green light to say, if you're going to rebuild now. And, and I don't think they're playing for this year. Now, how Justin Jefferson responds to that, I don't know. I will tell you, as much as I love him, you can't put that much cap space in one player. And if a team is willing to give 3 first-round picks for Justin Jefferson, I think you have to take it if I'm the Vikings. Because if you're really talking about rebuilding, it just is what it is. And on a fantasy perspective, I have no idea what to expect. Absolutely no idea. Because I don't know. We know who the quarterback's going to be. And until that decision is made, I think you have to downgrade every Viking skill player receiver until you know who the quarterback's going to be. And if it's Sam Darnold, from a fantasy perspective, yeah, it's probably a 10 to 20% decline for everybody across the board.
DJ Moore was a wide receiver 1 for the first 6 weeks with Sam Darnold. So we know.
Was that 2 years ago? Yeah, right.
When 2 years ago with the Panthers. For about 6 weeks.
Yeah, he had all those crazy rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a offensive coordinator, head coach minded guy that can do it, it's KOC. But yeah, like you were saying, I don't know what you're expecting because Kirk Cousins is perennial quarterback 13 every year in fantasy. Yeah. You know, like, do you think you're gonna plug in a quarterback, a QB 13 on the fantasy season? I mean, probably not. So those stats will just correlate to worse wide receiver numbers, or it's just like hyper target Justin Jefferson. Like that's what you're expecting. Like you're probably hopeful for with Justin Jefferson. Yeah. But speaking of him, like where do you draft him now? And like let's just say redraft, like
second round for sure.
Wow.
I'm not touching him in the first.
Yeah,
well, especially with the trend of rookies contributing right away. Right, that's new, right? So that's you made you rethink how you draft wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I mean, yeah, second round for Jefferson, depending on who ends up with the Chargers, who ends up, and we don't know what draft day trades. And this wide, Zach and I were talking earlier, like there's good wide receivers in the 6th or 7th round this year. It is this draft is crazy this year.
Mm-hmm. It is. We got a team coming up next year. Not quite as exciting, but I know Jeff is just over the moon about these Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields have been brought in for these Pittsburgh Steelers, but they traded away Deontay Johnson, so George Pickens gets a boost. He gets either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Both have shown they can support something. At least it's better than nothing that Kenny Pickett's ever been able to support. So I guess this is a bonus for George Pickens. If Justin Fields is playing, he's probably startable fantasy-wise. If Russell Wilson's starting, the Steelers are probably not doing too hot, which means it won't be for too long. Jeff, what are you going to say about Russell Wilson?
I think, even though Russell has lost a step, I'll give you that. He still has the arm talent to get the ball downfield to Pickens, but I think he's going to go back to being more like the Russ in his early season with the Seahawks, where he's got a really stout defense behind him that's going to probably get him the ball to where they just play ball control. And I think that's where he's been the best. You don't have to have Russ cook all the time now. Everything in Denver, you got to understand, that first year they didn't even have a head coach. So, I mean, that year was horrible. It was just horrible. He didn't have a head coach. There was no team camaraderie or nothing. So, last year he was.
But they were riding.
Excuse me?
They were riding, I thought.
They weren't riding. They weren't riding at all. That was
country?
A lot of fluff. That was a lot of, we're going to let Russ do whatever he wants.
Let's Russ.
There's no head coach.
Yeah.
That's like that team where you just have some guys with the coaches just there. That's exactly what this was. But you're playing against other coaches who have a team. So, yeah, Hackett, that whole thing was – this is what it was. Hackett designed that offense for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers couldn't get there, so they brought in Russ. That's it. He had no plans, no nothing. Now, last year, now you're playing with a coach that really didn't want you there. So they're like, we're going to do a couple of things to kind of highlight what you're doing. And all of this, and Russ has lost a step, but he wasn't horrible last year. A lot of drop balls. He missed a lot of open guys, but there was a lot of drop balls as well. So, you saw some good Russ. Then you also saw some bad things happen, but it was more of the team, not just Russ. So I think now we're going to get back to a lot of things being pared down, a lot of help out of the backfield by running the ball with Warren and Harris. A lot of play action. Got a good tight end. You got some decent receivers, and I think they're still probably going to bring in another receiver during the draft as well. So I think things are going to be much more in place for him this year for him to do somewhat well. I'm not saying he's going to set the world on fire, but I do think he's going to have the Steelers in playoff contention to where they might get out of the first round this year.
What I'm hearing from Jeff is go place your bets on Russell Wilson for MVP of 2025 NFL season. So,
I
that's
said
what
nothing
we
like
do.
that.
Russell Wilson, elite quarterback play over here.
No, I'm saying very competent. Let me tell you guys this, and you may not be old enough to remember, but I remember the time where Kurt Warner got kicked to the curb from the Rams, went to the Giants, had 2 subpar years, horrible. Everybody's like, he's done. Ends up going to the Cardinals, gets to a good situation with a good receiver. Lo and behold, he's in the Super Bowl. Lo and behold, now he's in the Hall of Fame. This could be the same thing that happens with Russ. Not saying that it is, but I can see it setting up that way.
Yeah, I mean, who did the Cardinals play in that Super Bowl?
The Steelers. Exactly.
I mean, it's just a full circle, so it's.
There it is.
If you do anything, if anything, like the fact that they were able to get both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and take that absolute dumpster fire of a quarterback room and turn it into what it is today is just a testament to the Steelers being a great organization per usual. And they could have me as the quarterback. We're going to get more wins. We're going to get one more win than losses with Mike Tomlin as the head coach. So, yeah, it's definitely got to be optimistic. I think, who's the main guy? Who's the main non-quarterback in Pittsburgh?
Pickens?
That's the thing there. It's like you're hoping for a Cortland Sutton-esque season out of a George Pickens where it's just all touchdown based like it was last year. It was just a bunch of moon balls to Cortland Sutton. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if there's a wide receiver that can go up and catch anything, it's George Pickens. So
yeah.
it could be something we look back on and be like, how did we not see this coming, kind of thing.
Yeah, I just think if they're not winning games early on in the season, Russ, I don't think he gets more than 3 bad games. So he'll be on the bench.
The reality of it is Pittsburgh's one of the teams. Who do they draft? Right? Who do they draft matters at wide receiver.
Be a linebacker.
And then B, if they're starting Russell Wilson, I'm dumping all my Steelers. I'll roll with I'll take the shot with Justin Fields. There's no way in that division for fantasy that based on the Russell Wilson of the last 2 years, there's no way there's any upside to this.
No, I'm with Zach here. I think Pickens could have a Cortland Sutton-esque season with Russell Wilson at quarterback that I don't think he could have.
Okay, so that's only if Russ is guaranteed to play the whole season.
Yeah, if Russ plays 17 games with George Pickens.
So Pickens, you're sitting on draft league day on a redraft league, and let's say they draft a wide receiver, then you're like, oh, that's intriguing, but you don't know what the quarterback situation is.
Yeah.
Where are you drafting Steeler players in your draft?
If they draft a wide receiver high, I'm probably just not. You know what? Right. We didn't even talk about here, guys. Arthur Smith sucks, and the Steelers will be worthless. No point of drafting any Steelers ever until he's gone.
Well, I mean, it just depends. He's getting – the one thing the Steelers do is run the ball. They like to
Jalen Warren.
Those are 2 things that actually make Russ, I think, attractive in the situation. Now, are we looking at him to throw the ball downfield? I'm not. I'm looking at him being a little bit above a game manager here to where Steelers go out and play good on defense, and they manage the offense well to where they're able to do better than what they did last year. You got to go back to that first season with Denver. Look at their run game. You got Javonte gets hurt that year. Their run game was basically non-existent. Latavius Murray, I think, was there at that time. I mean, come on. They had no run game. I believe Sutton got hurt that year as well. Judy was all over the place. I was like, that first year was just really not a good year to kind of. I mean, I will say Russ is already on the decline, but still, that year was horrible. Last year was a little bit better. You got Devontae coming off the injury. You had Jaleel McLaughlin coming in there. I think that was his name, the rookie coming out of nowhere. So they still didn't have a full plan in place, even with Sean Payton there. So, and you still had Judy there. That was kind of
I don't
here and
know.
there.
Judy, $20 million a year wide receiver if you ask the Cleveland Browns. So
The Cleveland Browns I don't know what's going on over there right now. They are just paying everybody as well. It's almost like what's going on over where did your guy go, Ridley?
Ridley, that's our next guy. Let's
we'll
transition.
What a transition!
What a
Ridley.
great transition!
Wow, the
Not
Titans?
not rehearsed at all.
No, it wasn't. Calvin
Yeah.
Ridley, the Titans overpaying for everybody, $92 million, a 4-year contract.
What?
To be the number 2 wide receiver to DeAndre Hopkins, number 2
So-
wide receiver for
so can
Will
we-
Levis.
Can we agree that the 2 first-year class of Hall of Fame NFL players that are contract warriors is Kirk Cousins and Ridley?
Yeah.
Because, great for them. Congratulations,
The GOAT.
gentlemen.
The GOAT.
Goats
Did
for
you
contract.
hear what he said in his press conference?
Yes.
He was like, I wanted to be in Jacksonville, but they paid me more to come here, so I'm here.
I don't know.
There it is.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's a martyr for the sports gambling community. So from that perspective, I hope he does well. But at the same time, I think going to your press conference and being like, "Well, I really wanted to play in Jacksonville," which
division rival.
which is awful to even say outside of the context of the situation. To I want to be a Jaguar, sounds like you're just settling to begin with. You know what I mean?
Right.
But never mind the fact you then go to an interdivision team and be like, yeah, actually, I don't really want to be here, and I'm just taking the paycheck and running.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not touching Calvin Ridley. Wide receiver 2 in an offense with a quarterback I don't trust. I don't want a piece of it. If the Titans truly believe that Will Levis is their guy, this is what they got to do. They got to surround him with talent. So I get it from that standpoint, but I'm not touching Calvin Ridley. Anyone interested in Calvin Ridley for fantasy this year?
No.
No. Okay. We'll go to Calvin Ridley's previous team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They spent up big to get Gabe Davis, 3 years, $39 million. I'm also not interested in Gabe Davis when it comes to fantasy.
I don't understand what some of these teams. This draft is so stocked at wide receiver. It just is. I don't understand anyone paying any free agent wide receiver outside of maybe Mike Williams. I don't understand. In the age of a salary cap, there are plug-and-play players ready to go in this draft through all 7 rounds, and people are spending $40 million. No, great, good for Gabe Davis, good for him in his pocket. But I don't understand what these teams are doing. It's stupid.
Yeah, I'm not in on Gabe Davis at Jacksonville. I mean, he's good for the team of Jacksonville. He's a deep threat, but he's been inconsistent with Josh Allen as his quarterback. If you're going to be inconsistent with Josh Allen as your quarterback, I don't know what exactly we would expect fantasy-wise when Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback. Probably inconsistency, like we saw with Calvin Ridley last year.
Yeah.
So it's Jeff, Zach, anything you guys want to say about Gabe Davis in Jacksonville?
I mean, the world wrote off Evan Ingram, and he became
Yeah.
something in Jacksonville. So that's what you're hoping for. I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen, but
Evan Ingram's still there.
Evan Ingram's still there, but I mean, Calvin Ridley's gone. So it's you kind of they essentially they got half of what I consider the talent for half the price.
Yeah.
So you're paying $90-something million to Calvin Ridley. You're paying $40 million to Gabe Davis.
Mm-hmm. Evan Ingram season is what I'm hearing. Evan Ingram is and Christian Kirk, honestly.
Exactly. But then they always have those kind of under the radar guys that will who the hell is this dude that just went for 2 touchdowns and 96 yards this week? So that was my thing too. They always have these other guys that will slide in and then end up filling in and So I see that Davis is kind of in that lot with those guys where he's going to have maybe some weeks that he's got 2 touchdowns and 90 yards, and then he'll be back to the, 5 targets, 10 yards, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. We got a couple of Chargers wide receivers we're going to talk about. Will talked about Mike Williams, 1 year, $15 million deal with the Jets. And Keenan Allen was traded to the Chargers. To me, Keenan Allen, a downgrade going from Justin Herbert's number 1 to maybe the number 1 for a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. With an offense that now has DeAndre Swift, Gerald Everett, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, I don't really want a piece of that. And Mike Williams is the number 2 target for Aaron Rodgers. Has been pretty valuable. If he's deep enough in drafts, I think there's definitely a point where I'm targeting. I would rather have Mike Williams on my team next year than Keenan Allen. I think is where I sit at this moment. What do you guys think between those two? Which ones? I think that's really the question here we need to ask is which one would you rather have on your team just for next season, Mike Williams or Keenan Allen?
Mike Williams.
Yeah.
Mike Williams made it. Yeah, I mean the thing with Mike Williams is he's just one big jump ball away from giving you what you want out of him for fantasy, whereas Keenan Allen needs to be peppered with double-digit targets every game in order for you to be happy with them. But I like what he said at the press conference about being no, you guys can suck it, Chargers. I just had my best season ever. I'm not restructuring my contract, coming off the best season I've ever had. But at the same time, he still is a 30. He'll be 31 when the
32.
season starts.
He'll be 32. He's 31 and a half right now, I think.
Take it from a fellow 32-year-old. Things just start falling apart. You know what I mean? So I can only imagine playing in the NFL at this point in my life. So I think just with the age, I think Mike Williams would be, if you're asking him that same question, Mike Williams or Keenan Allen next season, I think I'd have more faith in Mike Evans with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's just, with Mike Williams, is he going to stay healthy? That's the only question I have.
That's the question you got with Keenan Allen, though. So
yeah, but he's been a little bit more durable the last couple of years because that's why I've always shied away from him as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued, I'll say, with Keenan Allen just because of his route running abilities and wondering if it is Caleb Williams, wondering what he's going to do. Having a guy that can run the routes that he can run. And it's a pretty decent offense when you think about, what they have receiver-wise. Now with Swift in the backfield, it's something that's I'm intrigued. I'll just say that because I don't
into Jeff's car right now.
No worries, because you don't know what. Honestly, we're talking about Kirk Cousins coming off of that Achilles. I haven't heard anything about Aaron Rodgers working out that's like top secret, and you don't know what you're going to get. We never did see him last season, so we don't even know what he looks like with the Jets.
Yeah. There's questions with the quarterbacks. Will, anything you want to say before we move on here quickly?
If I'm betting, I'm going with Allen because I just think he becomes a safety net for a rookie quarterback, and I'm going to throw to him. And I think the throws are going to be scramble throws because look, most rookie quarterbacks, right? It's going to be that. And so, when you're on the run, who are you looking for?
Yeah, I just think with Kmet there, with DJ Moore there, they brought in Gerald Everett, DeAndre Swift. They still have Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson. There's just too many mouths to feed.
Yeah, but I think the Jets put about Mike Williams. What a bad stadium to be in if you have an injury history.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I just, that's a risk.
Two Achilles on that piece of trash field last year. My boy Jalen Phillips and Aaron Rodgers both all their Achilles.
Yeah, it's a rough stadium. We got a couple more guys here. Just want to talk about briefly before we end this show, and we'll go record the running backs and tight ends show. Deontay Johnson, Carolina's new wide receiver 1. The hope is he plays the Adam Thielen role from last year, and he gets 10 targets a game. He gets open, which the Panthers didn't really have. So I think there's a chance that he's just going to be consistent all year. PPR guy. I don't really expect much more. I don't know if you guys disagree there. I feel like just a PPR guy, maybe he's your flex play every once in a while. I think you're probably comfortable. I don't think he's going to go early in drafts. He's an older guy. 1-year deal. Marquise Brown signs with the Chiefs. I don't know if you guys are excited about Marquise Brown.
Football players here with me now, or at least one of them that plays wide receiver. So if you feel like chiming in, man, go ahead.
Yeah, we got Marquise Brown with the Chiefs. I like Marquise Brown. I just don't.
I do too.
Like injuries.
Now I'm putting Marquise Brown. I'm gonna tell you right now. If I'm at the end of the first round in the redraft, I'm taking Marquise Brown if he's there.
What?
I am.
Oh, Will.
I am.
That's his upside. His upside, sure.
Do it to yourself.
I am gonna go all in on that one.
I'm going to trade for Marquise Brown wherever he is in our dynasty league and trade him to Will because whatever I can get him for now, Will's paying more.
I said redraft. I didn't say. No, I'm not doing that bet. No, I'll take that shot. Why not?
Like to me, he's got top 10 wide receiver upside, but
yeah,
the downside is, he plays.
He's with Patrick Mahomes and he can catch. Those are two things he's got going for him.
Who's the last person? Who's the last person not named Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill to be a top 10 wide receiver?
Because you had a bunch of guys that drop balls. You had MVS who couldn't catch a cold.
Dwayne Bowe.
Give me Dwayne Bowe, but Patrick Mahomes wasn't there. But
Mahomes was in middle school.
Can we say this though? Marquise Brown helps Rice,
True.
because Marquise Brown is going to be wide receiver 1, even though I think Rice is probably at some point during the season becomes wide receiver 1.
When Marquise Brown gets hurt in week
2. Pony
2.
up. I'm going to tell y'all, pony up. Don't underestimate Rice. He was coming on at the end of the season.
Nah, it's all right. If he pans out, he's got top 10 wide receiver upside. Doesn't pan out, he's hurt. That's what it really comes down to. He's a good wide receiver, I think, in my opinion. But we got one more wide receiver, a guy who got paid more money. Curtis Samuel, former Carolina Panther, goes to the Buffalo Bills, former Carolina coaching staff. We already saw this in Washington. Curtis Samuel is the go-to guy. He's better than Terry McLaurin, better than Jahan Dotson, according to Ron Rivera in that Commanders offense. I mean, Curtis Samuel, the way Stephon Diggs played at the end of last year, let's be real, guys, Curtis Samuel is better than that. So do we have a wide receiver 1 for Josh Allen and Curtis Samuel? Probably not. But I think he's going to be a decent wide receiver 2. They're going to get him involved in the backfield, in the slot. He's going to be lined up out wide. They're going to force feed him the ball. Fantasy-wise, he's probably a flex play in and out of your lineup, in my opinion. I think he's going to be more consistent than Gabe Davis. He can still hit those deep balls and get open deep, but he's going to have those touches underneath that Gabe Davis never got, in my opinion. I also love Curtis Samuel. So, Zach, let me know why I'm being a little biased here.
I think he's trash, and so are the Buffalo Bills. So, no, it's obviously a bias thing because I hate the Bills, but he's like super versatile. So, like, I can see how Buffalo schemes some stuff up for him, but just takes away from my boy James Cook. But yeah, Stephon Diggs obviously on the decline. I don't know if Curtis Samuel is like the answer to come in and like take over the number 1 spot for Josh Allen, but I mean, certainly adds a value to, or adds like another weapon to this team that constantly falls short every season. So maybe Curtis Samuel will be the thing that gets them past the Chiefs for the first time.
I think he's a flex play. I think the touches will be there. In a high-powered offense, he'll get the touchdowns. Jeff, Will, anything you want to add before we end this show and we go?
I just want to know what the odds are on Diggs not being on the roster week 1.
Oh, if Stephon Diggs is not on this roster and they don't add another wide receiver, I hope you know how early I'm going to be taking Curtis Samuel in drafts.
Yeah.
I cannot be so much more excited. But with that being said, we're going to end this here. We are going to go record our running backs and tight ends show. So if you have already seen that one, hope you also enjoyed this show. If you haven't seen the running backs tight ends show, lots of running backs, you're definitely not going to want to miss that one. So go check that one out. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks, Zach, Will, and Jeff for joining. Go check out Ocean State FF. Got the jersey swaps for the upcoming draft. I've seen them in the works. Can't wait to see whoever the Panthers take him the first round. Just kidding. Not happen. We got Jeff, Will with media. Go check out media for sure. And with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out the other show.
Got you.